I yelled at a stranger in traffic, only to find out it was my new manager. My name is Emily Carter, and until that morning, I genuinely believed I was a calm, reasonable person. The kind who takes deep breaths, listens to meditation podcasts, and claims not to let small things get to her. Spoiler alert, that illusion shattered somewhere on Maple Avenue at 8:17 a.m. on a Tuesday while I was halfway through cursing at a silver sedan. The morning had already been a disaster. My toaster burned the last slice of bread, my coffee machine sputtered like a dying animal, and my cat Luna chose violence by knocking over an entire mug of lukewarm brew onto my freshly ironed blouse. I had exactly 15 minutes to get to my new job, my dream job, the one I had spent 3 interviews fighting for at a marketing agency I'd admired for years. I'd envisioned my first day as a moment of quiet triumph, walking in with polished confidence and a latte in hand. Not a high pulse, caffeine stains, and an unhinged grin of panic. Anyway, I got in my car and immediately joined a river of brake lights, stretching toward downtown. The radio cheerfully announced that Maple Avenue was temporarily reduced to 1 lane due to construction. Temporary in city speak means forever. I gripped the steering wheel until my wrists ached. The clock on the dashboard blinked, 8:12. My GPS helpfully suggested I'd arrive at 8:36. My start time was 8:30. I could already feel my stomach folding into origami from anxiety. When the sedan in front of me suddenly swerved into my lane without signaling, cutting me off so abruptly I had to slam on the brakes, something inside me snapped like a dry twig. My horn blared, a long, primal sound of frustration. "Oh, yeah? You think you're the only one late, genius?" I yelled through the windshield, voice sharp and desperate. The driver's hand shot up, not apologetically, but defiantly. That did it. I rolled down my window halfway, glaring like a cartoon villain. "Use your turn signal next time," I screamed, words spearing into the cold morning air. The sedan's driver turned. Dark sunglasses, red lipstick, sleek bun, face twisted into an unimpressed scowl, and I knew instantly I'd just picked the wrong enemy. Her eyebrows lifted a fraction, the kind of look only CEOs and terrifying headmistresses have mastered. The light turned green, and she zipped ahead, leaving me choking on a mix of exhaust and regret. By the time I reached the building, a gleaming glass tower on Elm Street, my nerves were tangled in tiny, combustible knots. I parked hastily, redid my ponytail in the rearview mirror, patted at the coffee stain with a tissue, and tried to summon an ounce of dignity. The lobby mirrored my mood in its sterile shininess. Polished marble, citrus-scented air, 2 bright lights bouncing off chrome edges. Everything screamed professionalism and caffeine dependency. A receptionist with perfect eyeliner greeted me. "You must be Emily Carter. Welcome to Strive Marketing. The team meeting is upstairs, conference room 3. I plastered on what I hoped looked like enthusiasm instead of existential dread and hurried toward the elevators. Inside, I took a shaky breath. First impressions, I told myself, you get one. The elevator doors slid open on the 10th floor, revealing a corridor lined with motivational posters. Teamwork, innovation, integrity. The kind of words you silently roll your eyes at but pretend to internalize. I found conference room 3. Voices drifted through the door. Laughter, the clinking of coffee mugs, the hum of conversation that made me feel simultaneously excited and like a middle schooler walking into a cafeteria mid-lunch. I pushed the door open and froze. Standing at the head of the table, gesturing smoothly to a projector screen, was the woman from the silver sedan. The sunglasses were gone, replaced by a sharp navy suit and an expression of commanding ease. "Good morning, everyone," she was saying. "Before we start, I'd like to introduce our newest team member." Her eyes swept the room, then landed on me. It was a slow, deliberate scan that made the hairs on my arms rise. "Ah, Emily Carter. So glad you could join us." The faintest curve of amusement touched her lips, but her eyes held mine like a referee, silently recounting penalties. The room's 20 pairs of eyes pivoted my way. "Hi," I stammered. "So great to be here." I could feel my heartbeat somewhere near my throat. The woman, Miss Dalton, I'd later learn, offered a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Please, have a seat." I believe we've already crossed paths. A ripple of polite laughter went around the table while I melted into the nearest chair, cheeks burning. "Please, universe," I prayed silently, "open a sinkhole right now and swallow me whole." For the next 45 minutes, I alternated between pretending to take notes and trying not to make eye contact. Miss Dalton led the meeting with an effortless authority that made me simultaneously admire and fear her. She dissected campaign strategies, outlined new client expectations, and spoke in sentences that sounded like they'd been pre-approved by the gods of efficiency. Every so often, her gaze grazed over me, calm and unreadable, like she was appraising whether to fire me or forgive me. After the meeting, I lingered by the coffee machine, hoping she'd teleport to another dimension before we ran into each other. No such mercy. She approached, heels crisp against the tile, a faint orange scent, citrus and cool professionalism following her like a signature. "Emily," she began. Not Miss Carter, just Emily. My name had never sounded so much like a verdict. About the traffic," I blurted before she could continue. "I didn't realize it was you, and I was late, and my cat spilled coffee." She raised a single hand, elegantly halting my panic sprint. "Relax," she said, tone both reassuring and faintly amused. "It happens. Though, for the record, my lane change was perfectly legal." I felt the world tilt slightly. She was teasing me. Her serious face cracked into a small, knowing grin. "I admire your passion," she added. "Let's just aim to direct it toward campaigns rather than traffic incidents." I blinked. "Yes, absolutely, Miss Dalton." "Call me Claire," she replied. Then she poured herself coffee like she hadn't just walked out of a viral nightmare moment. As she left, she added over her shoulder, "And Emily, welcome to the team. You're going to fit in just fine." I stood there, gripping my disposable cup, half relieved, half certain I'd just lived through an origin story of humiliation that would haunt me at every staff dinner forever. Over the next days, the memory refused to fade. Every time Claire passed by my desk, that mental highlight reel replayed, the horn, the yell, the sunglasses. But to my utter surprise, she didn't treat me like a nuisance. Quite the opposite. She started looping me into meetings, asking for my ideas, even praising my slides. The more I worked under her, the more I realized she wasn't just brilliant. She was intimidatingly human. She'd stay late proofreading campaigns, laugh easily at bad puns, and kept a small jar of jelly beans on her desk that everyone pretended not to raid. It took exactly 1 week for me to admit to myself that I didn't just respect her, I liked her. The kind of subtle, dangerous, maybe this could be something like the sort that sneaks in between caffeine and deadlines. I tried to suppress it. Office crushes never end well. But every time she'd tilt her head thoughtfully during brainstorming sessions or reference some obscure 90s music with a smile that sparked at the edges, my professionalism cracked a bit more. One evening, after everyone else had left, she stopped by my desk. "You handled that pitch revision beautifully, Emily," she said. "I know it was thrown on you last minute." I murmured a clumsy thank you. She hesitated, then added, "You're adjusting quickly." Not everyone hits the ground running here. Something about the softness in her voice, the lack of armor, made the room feel smaller. Our eyes met across the glow of the computer screens. "Just trying not to yell at any more managers in traffic," I said before my brain caught up with my mouth. Claire laughed, a genuine, unguarded laugh, the kind I hadn't heard from her before. "Good policy," she said, still smiling. And for a few glorious seconds, everything awkward between us dissolved into easy warmth. Of course, reality doesn't stay idyllic for long. The next morning, chaos re-entered in the form of a client crisis, a campaign error that had cost thousands in potential revenue. And somehow, my name was on the report. Confusion, panic, and a sick dread crept up. By noon, Claire called me into her office, tone unreadable. The office windows framed the skyline, all confidence and sharp lines. "Emily," she said quietly, hands clasped on the desk, "walk me through what happened with the Vega account." And that's how I found myself once again sitting in front of the same woman whose car I'd yelled at, praying this time she'd see beyond the mess. Because this mistake could cost me more than just embarrassment. It could cost me everything I had worked for. Her office smelled faintly of bergamot tea and printer ink, the fragrance of impending judgment. I could hear my own pulse in my ears as Claire gestured toward the folder on her desk. "The Vega account," she repeated. "The numbers don't match the client approval sheet. Tell me what you know." Her voice wasn't accusing, just impossibly level. The kind that expects grown-up honesty rather than excuses. I took a breath and leaned forward, fingers woven tightly in my lap. "I checked the deliverables twice," I said. "The finalized copy I uploaded was correct, but the client portal shows an earlier draft, one that wasn't meant to go live." I forced myself to look at her. "It must have been swapped somewhere in production.